Imagine a man who promised to restore an empire, a leader cheered by massive crowds who also led his nation into catastrophic ruin. This isn't a character from a movie. This was Benito Mussolini, Il Duce of Italy. But was he just a villain? Or is the story more complex? Let's peel back the layers of propaganda and history to understand the man who invented fascism and forever changed Italy. When Mussolini rose to power in 1922, Italy was a nation in turmoil. Post-World War I, the country faced economic chaos, political instability, and social unrest. People were desperate for a strong leader, someone who could bring order and restore national pride. Mussolini, a former socialist journalist and a charismatic speaker, seized this moment. He promised to make Italy great again, to revive the glory of the Roman Empire. His black shirts marched on Rome, and in a blend of intimidation and political maneuvering he was handed the keys to the kingdom. In the early years, it seemed to many that Mussolini was delivering on his promises. His government launched massive public works projects. The Pontine Marshes, a malaria-infested swamp for centuries, were drained and turned into fertile farmland and new towns. This was a monumental achievement, creating jobs and improving public health. He built highways, the famous autostrade, connecting the country like never before. New schools, hospitals, and sports facilities sprang up. His supporters would famously say, "He made the trains run on time." While this was more propaganda than reality, it captured a feeling. Mussolini was bringing efficiency and modernity to a country that desperately needed it. He also introduced social welfare programs. The regime established after-school programs for youth, offered subsidized vacations for working families, and expanded maternity benefits. These policies were genuinely popular and improved the daily lives of many ordinary Italians. From the outside, especially in the 1920s and early 30s, many international observers, including prominent figures in Britain and the United States, looked at Mussolini with a degree of admiration. They saw a man who had seemingly tamed chaos and was getting things done. But this order came at a terrible price. The good was built on a foundation of profound wrong. The first casualty of fascism was freedom. Mussolini swiftly dismantled democracy. He outlawed all other political parties, turning Italy into a one-party state. Freedom of the press was abolished. Newspapers were either shut down or became mouthpieces for the regime. His secret police, the Avra, spied on citizens, creating an atmosphere of fear and suspicion. Anyone who dared to speak out against Il Duce, politicians, intellectuals, artists, ordinary workers, faced imprisonment, exile, or worse. The political opponent Giacomo Matteotti, who bravely denounced fascist violence, was kidnapped and murdered, sending a chilling message to anyone who considered dissent. The cult of personality around Mussolini was all-encompassing. His face was everywhere. Slogans like "Mussolini is always right" were painted on buildings across the country. Children were indoctrinated from a young age in fascist youth groups, taught to believe, obey, and fight for the Duce. Individuality was suppressed in favor of blind loyalty to the state. This wasn't just political control, it was an attempt to control the very minds and souls of the Italian people. The regime's quest for an empire led to brutal colonial wars. The invasion of Ethiopia in 1935 was marked by horrific violence, including the use of chemical weapons against civilian populations, a clear war crime. Mussolini wanted to project strength, to create a new Roman Empire. But his ambition was built on the suffering of others. Perhaps his most fateful and devastating decision was the Pact of Steel, the alliance with Nazi Germany. Initially, Mussolini had been wary of Hitler. But drawn in by a shared ideology and a desire for geopolitical power, he tied Italy's fate to Germany's. In 1938, despite Italy not having a deep-rooted history of modern anti-Semitism like Germany, Mussolini enacted the racial laws. These laws stripped Italian Jews of their citizenship, their jobs, and their rights, paving the way for future deportations and the Holocaust in Italy. It was a moment of profound moral failure, a betrayal of his own people in service of a monstrous alliance. When Mussolini dragged a reluctant and ill-prepared Italy into World War II in 1940, the consequences were catastrophic. The Italian military suffered devastating defeats in North Africa, Greece, and the Soviet Union. The country was not industrially equipped for a modern war, and the initial propaganda-fueled enthusiasm quickly turned to despair. The war brought bombing, shortages, and immense suffering to the Italian people. The order Mussolini had promised had devolved into the ultimate chaos. By 1943, even his own fascist Grand Council had turned against him. He was arrested and overthrown, only to be broken out of prison by German commandos and installed as the puppet leader of a Nazi-controlled state in northern Italy. His final years were a grim epilogue, presiding over a brutal civil war that tore Italy apart. In April 1945, as Allied forces advanced, Mussolini tried to escape to Switzerland with his mistress, Clara Petacci. They were captured by Italian partisans, executed, and their bodies were brought to Milan, where they were hung upside down in a public square for all to see. A shocking end for the man who had ruled Italy for over 2 decades. So how do we remember Benito Mussolini? To dismiss the initial appeal of his regime is to misunderstand history. He tapped into a real desire for order, stability, and national pride. The public works and social programs were tangible achievements. However, these cannot and should not be separated from the brutal reality of his dictatorship. He destroyed democracy, crushed dissent with violence, led his country into disastrous wars, and became an accomplice to the horrors of the Holocaust. The progress he claimed was an illusion, bought with the freedom and ultimately the lives of countless people. The story of Mussolini is a powerful and chilling reminder that the promise of order at the cost of liberty is a bargain that always ends in tragedy. Thank you so much for watching. Understanding these complex figures is crucial to learning from the past. If you found this video insightful, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into history. We'll see you in the next one.